Is it too easy to say Sonny Dykes out because they wanted Chip Kelly in?
Boy, it sure feels that way, doesn't it, Doug? I mean, everyone that I spoke to, that was last night. My phone was blowing up, and I think the expectation is Chip Kelly will just be making a little a short drive from where he's at there in San Francisco to Berkeley would be my guess. But I mean, I guess you never know. But I couldn't imagine Sonny Dykes being out unless they had his replacement in tow, and it just seems like an easy, natural fit with obviously Chip's background there in the Pac-12 and the success that he had. And not to rip on Sonny Dykes, but 3 out of 4 losing seasons, that's not exactly getting it done in today's college football.
No, I mean, look, he took over a complete disaster. Athletic department was a disaster. That was a disaster, but he was never able to stabilize the defense as much as the offense. Gave him a number 1 overall pick, and then he had Davis Webb this year. They couldn't stop anybody. I guess here's my question to you. Look, you know trends, you know the game way better than all of us do, okay? So it does feel like a lot of people have copied parts of what they've done, right? Like when Oklahoma, for example, they were the first team in the Big 12 when Leach was the offensive coordinator to run the spread, right? Then everybody became a spread team, and then there became some of the zone read teams, and there's different sorts of spread, zone read, et cetera.
Sure.
Has what he did at Oregon was groundbreaking, but has the rest of the college football world caught up?
I mean, I think everybody kind of has their variation. I mean, I don't think that there's what makes Chip Kelly and the success he had at Oregon, I don't think is just the play calling. And from everyone that I've spoke to, and I know a lot of people that know Chip or have played for Chip, I mean, I think it's the way he ran the day-to-day, the response he was able to get from his players. He recruited well. They developed players well. But then just the way that they ran their practice or, how it's frowned upon and it's not necessarily embraced in NFL locker rooms, the eating the right things, being on meal plans, all the things that as a professional you're kind of like, dude, like, come on, you're going to tell me what to eat? But as a kid, as an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid who's been eating junk his whole life up until that point, it's great. And he saw some, really great payoff at the collegiate level. But, I think part of what makes Chip so good is the week-by-week process of grinding it, of getting his players to understand exactly what they're trying to do. I don't think it's just play calling or the system. I think it's the preparation that they put in. It's the offseason. It's the practice. And by all accounts that I've heard, Chip Kelly, he may not beat you up, Monday through Friday as far as pounding a practice, but to implement his system and what he expects, especially with 18 to 21-year-old kids, I think he does it extremely well. And I don't think anybody that's tried to run his system has had the success to the extent that he did. We got to remember now, they were running the Pac-12 when he was in Oregon. I mean, running it.
Yep.
What did he go to? I think 3 out of 4 Rose Bowls or BCS Bowls, when one of them was a national championship game. He was reeling off Pac-12 titles. So, I mean, they really had it going there. And Mark Helfrich clearly wasn't able to keep it on the same page. Even Mike Bellotti, who I work with at ESPN, who I think is a great guy, is a college football Hall of Famer. Even as well as he did, he never had it to the heights that Chip did. So, right. I think Chip really knows what he's doing. And in my opinion, the way he relates to players, the system, and not just the offensive style and the way he calls plays, but the system and the way he runs a program, I think it's far more conducive to 18 to 20-year-old kids in college as opposed to 20, 34-year-old grown men that are professionals.
Dusty Dvoracek, who was a pro, was a college star, now an ESPN college football analyst. Chip Kelly, by the way, 44-5, won 3 straight Pac-12 titles, won a Rose Bowl, won a Fiesta Bowl as well. He's joining us on the Doug Gottlieb Show here on CBS Sports Radio. Let's get into tonight. Okay, let's get into tonight. How big a factor do you think changing play callers is the week of the national championship game?
You know what? I really don't think it's going to play a huge role, Doug. I mean, I thought this was a huge story last week. I'm out in Charlotte. We have these studio shows. It leads every show, right? I mean, it's national championship week. Nick Saban going for his 5 out of 8 years, and he gets rid of Lane Kiffin. He moves in Steve Sarkisian. Wow. I mean, it's crazy. And for a guy, think about this, Doug. Nick Saban spends so much time, all these coaches do, to alleviate distractions, to distance their football team as much as possible from a distraction. And here you have Nick Saban, who is notorious for eliminating distractions, inviting a massive distraction in, right? Because some people would say, well, he eliminated the distraction by getting rid of Lane Kiffin. By changing offensive coordinators week of the national title game, that's a distraction from a media standpoint, having to answer the questions. On the field, is it a distraction? I don't think so. here's the thing. Steve Sarkisian, they're both from SC. They both have the same verbiage. They basically are very similar stylistically in what they want to get accomplished. And he's been there since September. They didn't just bring this guy in off the street. He's been there. He's watched Lane with these players. He's been around Jalen Hurts almost as long as Lane Kiffin has. And he understands exactly how they've implemented him, how they've used him, how they've progressed him, all those different type of nuances. So from that aspect, I really don't think this is going to play a huge role. What's going to be interesting to me is expect my former defensive coordinator, Brent Venables, who's just having a fantastic year, them to throw the kitchen sink at him early and force Jalen Hurts to throw the football. How is Sark going to – or Sark to come into the game already kind of knowing that, and he's going to say, you know what, we're just going to get some easy throws out quick, and we're going to get this quarterback comfortable and into a rhythm. How does he adjust, though, to what Brent Venables does? That, to me, is going to be an interesting dynamic just because he hasn't called plays in a while. It's been almost 2 years since he's called a play. But getting this team ready, game plan, all that type of thing, being able to communicate with your true freshman quarterback, I got to be honest, Doug, I'm not placing that high of a value as far as it being a deterrent for Alabama or being a huge gain for Clemson. To me, it's kind of a moot point. But as much as anything, it's got to tell you, though, that room was getting hot in there, man. Hot up in there.
No question.
And Nick Saban.
No question. But you did. I had to point. You did kind of contradict yourself. You're like, look, I don't think it matters in the prep, but it's going to matter in the adjustments. That's part of calling plays. Is the adjustments.
No. What I'm saying is, I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to play a role. How he adjusts will be interesting to see. And if there is a place that it does negatively affect this team, it will be that.
Okay.
Being able to adjust on the fly. But again, in my opinion, I'm not anticipating that to play a big role because I don't think – I think with all those weapons, I think with an offensive line that's as good as you'll find most places, with a quarterback who we all want to extrapolate last week, right? Boy, he only threw for 57 yards and a 7-of-14. His first pass, Buda Baker should have picked up. I get it. He also accounted for 34 touchdowns and was the SEC Offensive Player of the Year as a true freshman. He's got first-round talent around him at receiver, at tight end, at running back. He's got probably the first offensive tackle in the draft coming out. He's got pieces all around him. These pieces have been in place all year. Again, I don't think that they're trying to reinvent the wheel here with Steve Sarkisian. I think it'll be something new. It'll be something fresh. And again, I don't think it'll deviate from much of what we've seen throughout the course of the year.
All right, so let's.
Hey, by the way, I went through this, Doug. I should have brought that up. 2003, we played for a national championship against Nick Saban. By the way, his first national title. And we lost Mike Stoops after the Big 12 game. Mike Stoops, our defensive coordinator, takes the Arizona job. Now, again, this wasn't on the fly like this.
Right.
But as far as changing a coordinator while preparing for a national championship game, I've been there, done that. We didn't play particularly well in the first half. Had nothing to do with play calling. Had nothing to do with Mike Stoops. We didn't play when we got out there. We missed on a blitz, and Vincent hit a big run on the first play of the game. So as we prepared and as we got ready, and even once we got into the game and once we got going, it didn't matter that Brent Venables was calling the defense and it prepared us, and it wasn't Mike Stoops. We lost that game as players, not because we didn't have our defensive coordinator out there.
All right, Deshaun Watson, a type of quarterback that's given Alabama issues in the past, but it's a very good Alabama. He does have some. Mike Williams is a deep ball threat. He can, but they don't have a great running game. Give me your sense for what we need to look for with Deshaun Watson against the vaunted defense.
Well, I went back and I watched last year's game as well as I watched the semifinal games. And one thing that really opened my eyes about last year's game, third down, even second and 6+, when they throw the football, they were allowing Deshaun Watson to get out the back door. They were losing contain. They were allowing Deshaun Watson, whether he was running for first downs, keeping his eyes down the field, finding targets down the field. That's where he really hurt them. He got outside the pocket and he extended plays, and he beat you with his legs or with his arm. They've got to do a better job keeping the pocket tight, keeping everything together, closing all sides of the walls in on Deshaun Watson. They've run a lot of two-man, which is two high safeties, man-to-man underneath. It's a patented coverage for Nick Saban, especially with this defense. It's a great coverage, especially for a guy like Mike Williams. You can man him. You can hang a safety over the top to make it tough to hit the deep shots. But where that defense is susceptible is it's a four-man rush, and all the underneath coverage is man-to-man. So what? These guys are turning their backs. The back of their heads are facing the quarterback. That means that if that four-man rush doesn't get home or they get out of their rush lanes, they lose contain. That means a mobile quarterback, which Deshaun Watson is. He can chew you up. We saw Browning do it last week on a 3rd and 6, 2-man. He walked for a first down. I watched Deshaun Watson do it a season ago. When they get in those situations, they've got to do a good job running games up front and also keeping good contain on the outside so that there's nowhere for Deshaun Watson to go. His ability to extend plays as well as the design quarterback run game, it'll probably be the difference in this football game.
Okay,
think about this. Think about this, Doug.
Yeah.
All season, Deshaun Watson had 4 rushing touchdowns. The last 2 games, he's had 4 rushing touchdowns and 32 runs, and most of those design-called runs. They did similar to this last year. As the season went on,
they'll run him more. Yeah.
They utilized his best skill set, and that's running the football. So look for them to try to get him going with his legs tonight. This is a stingy Alabama defense, though. And I'm going to tell you what, man.
Dusty, I got 15 seconds. I need a pick.
I got Alabama because I think, as I've watched the tape, Doug,
15 seconds.
Best defense I've ever watched. Best defense I've watched on a college football field on all 3 levels. So I think it's going to be a great game. I'll actually probably root for Clemson. That Alabama defense too tough, man. Too good.